Okay, today we're going to talk about percent proportions. A percent proportion is nothing more than whatever percent that you have over 100. What we're saying here is that it's going to be an is over of for this, which means the is our part that we're looking for over the whole amount. So the percent over 100 is equal to is over of is what we're doing. We're going to use this to help us find to find percent of a number. Now, I actually wind up writing it like this. I've always said is over of is equal to my percent over 100. You're going to really memorize this formula because it's something you're going to use almost every day whenever you are trying to find percent of a number out in the real world. It could be when you're going to the grocery store. It could be when you're going out to dinner and finding tax. It could be when you're going shopping at the mall and trying to find the sale price or what the discount is on something. So this is how you're going to do it every single time. Okay? To find the part, and again, we said that the part is the word is. We're finding this here. To find the is part of it, the part is is. So to find the part, we're going to use, we're going to use is over of still. We're going to write it again. Is over of is equal to the percent over 100. So let's use that to help us with this question here. What is 24% of 160? Okay, so in the question that we have here, and then we always want to try to get our question, if it's in a word problem form or maybe even just in a couple of sentences, we need to try to get our actual question to ask it in this manner. We want to say, what is some percent of, and then some number. That's what we're always trying to look for, okay? So if you can get it into that question, it's going to help you set up your problem really easily. So we're going to use this. So clearly it's telling us the what is. That's my unknown. And we even said over here, we're finding the part. So there's my x. I don't know what that is. We know our percent. It says our percent is 24%. Well, we don't even have to worry about decimals or anything else like that because we're going to make it over 100 instead. So it's 24 over 100. Whatever this percent is right here, whatever that is, we're putting right on top right here. That's exactly what we're going to put right there. Okay. Now it says of 160. So clearly then the of is going to be 160 right here. Now, here's the part we need to know how to do. When we have two proportions like this, we're saying that those two proportions are equal to each other. Clearly says right here that they're equal. So I need to figure out now how to solve for x. So in order to solve for x, I'm actually going to do what we say cross multiply. Some people actually call this the butterfly too. It depends on how you're thinking. I always just do it like this, where I say this times this, and I get an answer. So let's do that. What's x times 100? Well, we know we can't really multiply together, but I can put it together. So that's going to be 100x. I'm going to keep my equal sign. And now I'm going to multiply the 160 times the 24. And when I multiply that together, 160 times 24, it gives me 3840. Okay, if you look at this now, we have an equation, and we can solve equations. We have to go back to our other unit to remember how to do this. I need to get rid of the 100. In order to do that, I'm going to divide by 100 on this side, which means I'm also going to divide by 100 on this side. So my hundreds cancel out, and I'm left with x is equal to 38.40. Now remember, to divide by 100, all I'm doing is I'm taking the decimal that was in this answer right here, and I'm moving it 2 places to the left. That gives me my 38.40. Okay, now if we are doing this part of it, we're trying to find the whole, which is our of portion. Still the same formula. Is over of is equal to my percent over 100. Okay, so let's use this. Let's say that we're trying to find 36 is 75% of what? All right, so this time it's a little bit different. We have a couple different things. Our is clearly is 36 because it says 36 is. So that's my is. I'm putting 36 on top right there in place of the word is. We know it's going to be equal to a percent. Here's my percent. And that's 75 over 100. Because remember that 75% is 75 over 100. We would just reduce it under normal circumstances, but I'm going to leave it like that for what we're doing. It actually makes our life a little easier. Here's my of what. So this is my unknown. This is going to be my x value that I'm looking for. So there's my x. All right, again, I'm going to cross multiply. Let me show you on this one what I meant by the butterfly. Some people do it like this, where they sort of circle, and then they circle these, because then it kind of looks like a butterfly when you're done, if you want to see that. So 36 times 100 is 3600. See, that's what makes my life easy, right? It's easy to multiply by 10 and 100. And 75 times x is easy because it's going to be 75x. All right? Remember again, equation, I just need to divide both sides now to get rid of my 75. I'm going to divide by 75. And x is equal to 48. Remember, we can use a calculator to do our math there. So there's my answer there. That means that 36 is 75% of 48 is what we're saying. Because we can go ahead and put 48 in now for our word what. Okay, we have a couple of examples here, so let's work these out. And I'm going to actually show you 2 different ways to show each of these. I showed you the percent proportion, that is over of equals percent over 100, and we're going to stick with doing that. But I'm also going to show you another way to do it that some people find a little, just easier, not easier per se, but everybody likes different ways to do things, as we've already talked about. So we have here 60% of 355 is what? All right, let me set up my percent proportion. Is over of equals percent over 100. Remember, we're going to keep doing that same thing every single time. So it says 60% of 355 is what? So the percent's pretty easy. As I look at this, I know percent. I'm going to use this right here. It's going to be my percent right here. So I'm going to start with that. So I have 60 over 100. And now I have a couple things. Of 355. So of 355 is actually the of part right here. So that's 355 on the bottom right there. And then I also have now, oh, it says right here, is what. So is what, that's my x value right there. Okay, when I do the math, I wind up with 100x is equal to 21300. Divide both sides by 100. Remember, I can just chop off zeros here. And that gives me my answer. So that means that x is equal to 213. Right there. So 60% of 355 is 213. That's my answer for that one. This next one here, 2% of what is 1.4? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Let me go back. I want to show you the other way to do this. Okay, this is the other way we can do this. If I can always have this particular question. Instead of using this, which is my is over of equaling percent over 100, I can write it as a question, and I can write it like this. What percent of what? I know that sounds a little weird, but that's what we can do. It's the same premise. It almost, if you look at our questions that are in our examples, they kind of already look like this a little bit. So I can rearrange that question there of 60% of 355 is what? I can rearrange it into this question that I just made. All these whats that I have right here, these are all going to be filled in with one of those numbers or an X. That's what I'm going to do. So it says 60% of 355. So really what they're asking me is what is 60% of 355? So I'm going to rewrite it that way. That means that, so I've got this. What is 60%, oops, of, helps if I can spell, have the 0 there for that, I thought it was an O, of 355. Okay, I can take each one of these words and make it into either a number or a symbol. So what is my X? Is stands for equals, we know that. So now this is where I do need to change my 60% into a decimal. But we've been doing that with everything we've done so far. So this is going to become 0.6. The key thing here is this word of. This word, you need to remember, means we're going to multiply. Almost every time, almost, not all the time, but almost every time that you see the word of in a math problem, it means that you're going to multiply. So I have 60%, 0.6 times, the of is times, 355. Well, this right here looks exactly like what we've been doing on our problems so far. We were finding our tax and tip and our discounts and all that. So we have 0.6 times 355, and guess what we wind up with? We still get 213. And there's our answer. That's all we're looking for. So I want you to make sure you understand how to do it using a percent proportion like this. However, you can also use our question that we're doing here. You can use this way as a check, or you can also, as we move on, you can start picking which way you'd like to do it. But you do need to know how to set it up as a percent proportion, because that could be the way they're asking you on a test. They could say which number, for example, is going to go here, or which number is going to go here. So they could ask you that type of thing. So just be ready for that. All right, so 2% of what is 1.4? Well, let me go back to that question part. What percent of what? So what is, it's 1.4. So it's 1.4 is what percent, it's 2%. 1.4 is 2% of what? There's my question. That means I have 1.4 equals 0.02 times x. So actually, I wouldn't write it like that, would I? I would actually write it out. So we're going to 1.4 is equal to 0.02 x. That means I'm going to then divide both sides by 0.02. This cancels out. And x is going to equal 70. Okay, let's prove that we're right. We'll do it over here now using our percent proportion. So I have is over of is equal to percent over 100. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, always start with your formula. Whether your formula is making it into the sentence like this and then plugging in, all of your knowns that you're doing like that, okay? Or start with the formula, which is that is over of for the percent proportion. So I need to, again, fill it in. So I start kind of like that. We know 100's going here. My percent, we know, is 2. Of what? My of is my x, and is 1.4, so 1.4 is going there. This time, remember, we're talking proportion. This here is not a fraction. What we're looking at right here, this is actually a proportion, not a fraction. So it's okay for me to have a decimal as my numerator, so to speak, because it's a proportion, not a fraction actually here. All right, when I do my math, 1.4 times 100, I get 140. and this is going to equal 2x. Remember, it's this times this, and this times this. Again, divide by 2 to get rid of the 2. So I have my x alone, and x is equal to 70. Same exact thing that we got over here. So we can see that we're still doing it correctly. All right, let's look at the next one we have. We have 4.5 is what percent of 300? Okay, again, is over of is equal to percent over 100. So 4.5 is, that's going to be at the top. Of is 300. Percent, ooh, I don't know that one. That's going to be my x finally. I didn't know that. Okay, here we go. We're going to multiply. 300 times x gives me 300x. And 4.5 times 100 gives me 450. Divide both sides now by 300. And we get x is equal to 1.5. I could do the exact same thing over here with my what is what percent of what. So it's almost the same thing. We've got 4.5 is what percent. We got that. We got that. We need this as the x percent of 300. So that means 300x. And when I divide both sides by 300, okay, I get my x is equal to 0.015. This, remember, is a decimal answer. I need to change decimals to a percent. So there is a little added step here. Remember, if I'm going from my FDP chart, if I do like this, I've got a decimal 0.015. I'm moving it to the right. That means my decimal moves 2 places. It's always 2 places. That gives me the 1.5 for my percent. So x is equal to 1.5%. All right, here we go. We've got a word problem now. We're still finding percent of a number, okay? Again, percent of a number we've been doing because we did it with our tax, we did it with our tip, we did it with our discount, we did it with our markup. We're doing the same thing. 22% of homes have a pet snake. Not my home. Out of 4 million homes, how many have pet snakes? Okay, this is a lot of words. We need to try to somehow get all these words into the question of what is what percent of what, because it still works whether I'm doing my is over of equals percent over 100, my percent proportion, or if I use that sentence and just do the math that way. I still needed to get into that kind of a question of what is what percent of what, and a question mark at the end. Ran out of room. Okay. So it says, how many homes have pet snakes? So I'm kind of looking at, I need to know what is 22%. There's my thing. I know this, right? So let's fill in what we know. My what here, this is 22%. We know that this is my is. Still going to be that. And it says here, out of. So the of is kind of telling me, it's saying of the 4 million homes. So my of is 4 million. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for this part right here. What is 22% of 4 million? Try to get it into that kind of a question, and then you can work from there. So let's use our percent proportion. We know that is my is over of. Of is 4 million. I'm going to write it out like this. And we know that the percent was 22 over 100. Okay? All right, so let's do our multiplication. We have 100x, because remember it's this times this, is equal to 22 times 4 million, which is going to give me 88 million. Okay, let's divide both sides. We're going to divide it by 100. X is equal to, again, let's cut off zeros. 2 here, 2 here. So now I have 8 8, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 zeros right here. So that gives me 880,000. That's how many homes have pet snakes. That's too many for me. Okay, what you're going to do now is you're going to use all this information to help you answer the questions that you have for your homework, which was the practice word problems. You had a worksheet that has front and back. So again, use the same thing we've been doing so that you can go through and do that with your word problem practice. You may want to show all your work on another sheet of paper. Remember, think about folding your paper into fours so that you could do 4 questions on the front, 4 questions on the back, and have it all nice and neatly done. Okay? Please use the percent proportion to do this, but again, think about putting it as the question like this to help you to get it into this kind of a number thing to get it into our percent proportion. You can also check it using the sentence way of doing the math, and that's fine. All right, have a great evening. Enjoy your couple days off, and I will see people on Wednesday and Thursday.